Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is on assignment, so you're just with me this morning, and it's a big morning. It is the morning, of course, after the first in the nation primary, and we're going to get started with the race for the White House. NBC News projects former President Trump has won the New Hampshire primary, further cementing his status as the GOP frontrunner as he looks ahead towards a likely rematch with President Biden this fall in the general election. Trump defeated his lone remaining rival, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, who is vowing, though, to stay in the race. The victory makes Trump the first non-incumbent to win both the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primary. Both campaigns held rallies last night and addressed their supporters after the results were announced.
Just a little note to Nikki. She's not going to win. She's not going to win. But if she did, she would be under investigation by those people in 15 minutes. And I could tell you 5 reasons why already.
This race is far from over. There are dozens of states left to go. And the next one is my sweet state of South Carolina.
Meanwhile, on the Democratic side, President Biden defeated Minnesota Congressman Dean Phillips to win New Hampshire. Despite not being on the ballot in the state, Biden's supporters organized a write-in campaign to defeat Phillips in his long-shot bid to win the nomination. Breaking it all down for us, we are joined by NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster. He is in Manchester, New Hampshire, and we've also got NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for being with us on a big morning, Shaq. I will start with you and start on the former president, his second straight victory to begin this primary season. Right. How was he able to come out on top again, and what do we hear from him?
Hi there, Savannah. Well, you were able to see Donald Trump maintain that coalition of support in this state that has delivered for him before. Remember, this was his first win back in 2020. You saw a coalition of self-described conservative voters, and you saw him able to keep enough of those swing voters in this state, especially where you have undeclareds who can participate legally in the primary. I want you to listen to a little bit of what we heard from the former president last night after that double-digit win.
This is not your typical victory speech, but let's not have somebody take a victory when she had a very bad night. We are going to win this. We have no choice. If we don't win, I think our country is finished. I do. I believe our country is finished. We have beaten Biden. You could almost say, who can't? Who the hell can't? The man can't put 2 sentences together.
Now, despite that big win, you saw Donald Trump overnight on the attack on social media, going after Nikki Haley, going after Democrats and independents, even going after his coverage on Fox News.
Shaq, let's now talk about Nikki Haley before I bring Mark in here. So, of course, as I mentioned, she says she's hanging in there. She said she wants to see more Americans have the ability to vote. What should we know about the state of her campaign as she tries to find a path forward? And also, by the way, I mean, we heard her there say, you know, her home sweet state of South Carolina, but she's not polling ahead of the former president there either. What's next for her?
Right. Well, she will be going to South Carolina, and you heard her make the argument that she essentially wants voters in other states and other parts of this country to have the opportunity to have their say. Listen to a little bit more of what we heard from her.
I've long called for mental competency tests for politicians over the age of 75. Trump claims he'd do better than me in one of those tests. Maybe he would. Maybe he wouldn't. I decided to run because I'm worried about the future of our country and because it's time to put the negativity and chaos behind us.
Now, she does have an uphill battle here. If you look at the calendar in Nevada, she won't be getting any delegates there. And when you look at South Carolina, she is behind by a significant margin in polling. But she does have time to do what she can to close that gap, Savannah.
Mark, let's bring you in now. Let's talk about some of the exit polling data from New Hampshire. What is standing out to you as this first in the nation primary is now behind us, and when we really think about who makes up the electorate in New Hampshire?
Yeah, Savannah, let's look at the coalitions that really backed Donald Trump. He did very well with very conservative Republicans last night, as well as people who identify as Republican. He did well with those without college degrees and those with lower incomes, very similar to what we ended up seeing in Iowa. Conversely, we ended up seeing Nikki Haley do very well with moderates, with college graduates. And what really does stand out to me is just the overall electoral composition. 51% of those who participated in last night's Republican primary in New Hampshire identified as being a Republican versus 49% who said that they were either a Democrat or independent. As we go forward to South Carolina and remaining contests, that Republican percentage is going to be a whole lot higher than what we saw in New Hampshire last night.
And Mark, let's talk about a little bit of other news that came out last night. The Biden campaign announced a shakeup as two members of his team are going to move from the White House to top jobs in the campaign in this re-election bid. What should we know about that?
So what we ended up, you had two very well-known figures who are close to President Biden and in the White House, Mike Donnellan and Jennifer O'Malley Dillon, who is actually the campaign of Biden's 2020 presidential run, are going to Wilmington. And this is a shakeup, but it is worth noting that these are people who are very familiar with the Biden world, and that this is all an effort to start bolstering the Biden campaign before what's going to be a really long general election.
Mark Murray, Shaquille Brewster, thank you both very much for kicking us off on the big news this morning. We appreciate it. Well, court will resume on Thursday in former President Trump's civil defamation damages trial involving writer E. Jean Carroll. Now, Trump was expected to testify in court earlier this week, but the hearing was delayed due to COVID concerns. And then court was scheduled to resume today, but now has been pushed back again by a day. Meanwhile, in the election interference case led by special counsel Jack Smith, an appeals court in Washington has declined to rehear Trump's challenge to the gag order that was imposed on him. The order came after he made disparaging comments about the judge and prosecutors. Trump would need to bring his case to the Supreme Court in order to appeal the gag further. Now let's go to Michigan, where jury selection began yesterday in the criminal trial of the mother of Oxford high school shooter Ethan Crumbley. Jennifer Crumbley is facing 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter after her son killed 4 fellow students in the deadly November 2021 school shooting. In this unprecedented case, jurors will decide if a parent should be charged in connection with a mass shooting their child committed. NBC News correspondent Adrian Broaddus explains.
Inside the Oakland County Courthouse, a first. A parent facing criminal charges for a mass shooting carried out by their child. Jennifer Crumbley on trial for her alleged role in the mass shooting her son, Ethan, committed in Oxford, Michigan in 2021. Her husband will be tried separately.
They are charged with involuntary manslaughter, claiming that they had a duty of ordinary care to protect against their son getting his hands on the weapon.
Prosecutors say Ethan Crumbley used a semi-automatic handgun bought by his dad as a gift days before the shooting to kill 4 classmates. They also say his parents overlooked warning signs pointing to a teacher who saw Crumbley searching for ammunition online days before the shooting. After the school called his parents to express concern, prosecutors say Jennifer sent Ethan a text saying, quote, LOL, I'm not mad at you. You have to learn not to get caught. Ethan Crumbley was sentenced to 5 life sentences without parole last month.
This will go to the
Vin Johnson represents families of several victims and says they want Ethan's parents held accountable.
Those parents sat in that room with the administrators and didn't tell them about the gun, didn't tell them about all the problems that this kid was having at home.
Do your clients feel this is a form of justice?
They do, yes.
And Jennifer Crumbley's attorneys have asked the judge to compel Ethan to testify in her trial. But lawyers representing Ethan say that's something they'll advise against.
All right, Adrian, thank you so much. Well, joining us now for more on this is NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos. Danny, always great to have you with us. Thank you so much. So let's start on jury selection. Just walk us through kind of how that's going to look in a case like this, what you'll be watching out for.
Jury selection is going to be key in that you're looking to decide whether or not do you want parents on this case? Do you want gun owners? Remember, you're in Michigan. Michigan is a state. I'm a Michigander. A lot of folks have firearms in the home in Michigan because they hunt a lot. So this is a culture that may have a rather understanding view that there are firearms in the home, and maybe they tend to think that parents aren't automatically responsible for anything that happens with a firearm if the kid takes the gun and leaves the house. So jury selection in a case like this is key, but at the same time, I've long believed that jury selection is a lot like astrology. You can come up with all these different theories, but there really isn't a whole lot of science behind it.
I like that. Let's talk about Ethan potentially testifying. So Jennifer Crumbley, his mother's attorneys, they have asked the judge to compel Ethan to testify. However, since he is appealing his sentence, right? Am I getting this right?
Exactly
his
right.
attorneys
well,
are...
he may be appealing his sentence. Okay. He doesn't know yet.
And his attorneys are saying, we don't think we want him to do that. I mean, that sounds like some tension there. I'm assuming that the mother wants him to be testifying because in some way that can help her case. Walk us through kind of both sides of this.
Easy analysis for Ethan's attorneys tell him not to testify under any circumstances because it could really damage any appellate rights that you have. As for Ethan himself, ultimately, the client, the defendant, someone has an absolute right to forego their Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. As for the parents, they want Ethan to testify because presumably he's going to get up there and say, hey, I did this all by myself. This was an independent act. They didn't know anything. That won't save the day for the defendants because the government's going to put on lots of evidence about all the warning signs. But, you know, in American law, we do have a concept that typically, parents are not automatically liable for the torts, the wrongdoings of their children, and we typically don't hold someone responsible for a completely independent act by another person. Now, however, this was someone who had access to the firearm and the parents gave him access to the firearm. This really could go either way. This is not a foregone conclusion. This is not an automatic conviction for the state here. This is going to be an uphill battle because there are a lot of different places to point the blame, including possibly school administrators. That's what the defense will do. I'm not saying that's where the blame lies, but they may point at school administrators. They may point at their own son. They may point at each other.
Yeah. Do you think that the fact that they asked to be tried separately is an indication of that or not necessarily?
It's hard to say. Early on, the parents seemed to put on a unified front. You may remember there was reporting that they were communicating with each other. But, you know, those things change after you sit in jail for a while. So just even as a trial strategy, not really how they feel, they may end up really blaming each other. And you can see how that would turn out. Maybe the wife would say, he ruled the house with an iron fist. I never wanted those firearms in there, although there are some text messages that tend to disprove that. And the father might take the same tack and say, hey, she was involved with the firearm. I barely knew we had firearms in the house. I mean, the evidence may contradict that, but look, they may adopt that strategy just for the trial. There's a lot of blame potentially that they could spread around and look for them to do that.
What exactly would prosecutors have to prove? I mean, I think just for anybody at home who's listening who's not a lawyer, you hear some of these, you know, pretty disturbing details about what it seems the parents knew. What is it, though, that would have to be proven in order for them to be held accountable for involuntary manslaughter as they've been charged with?
Involuntary manslaughter is an unintentional killing that results from what's called criminal negligence. And what that means is that the parents will have had to consciously disregarded an obvious risk. They wouldn't be just held automatically liable for anything awful the child does. That's why you're going to see a lot of evidence of warning signs. Warning signs equal what we call in the law notice. And if you have notice of a problem and you fail to do anything about it, then the state can possibly prove that you were reckless, that you disregarded a risk. And those risks were the behavior of their son, how he appeared to be dangerous. And, of course, they're going to counter with, look, we did everything we could. We relied on the school. And we never thought, as troubled as we thought he was, we never thought he would do this.
Danny Cevallos, thank you very much. A tough one, unprecedented one. We appreciate you being here to walk us through it. Let's turn now to breaking news this morning. Russian authorities say that a military transport plane that was carrying 65 Ukrainian prisoners of war crashed near the Russia-Ukrainian border. The POWs were being transported along with 6 crew members and 3 others accompanying them on board. NBC News foreign correspondent Claudio Lubanga joins us now from Rome with the details so far that we have on this crash. Claudio, tell us what we do know at this point.
Good morning, Savannah. Well, let's start with what we know. According to a statement published by Russian state media, the Russian Defense Ministry confirmed, as you mentioned, that a Russian military transport plane crashed in the region of Belgorod, which is close to the border with Ukraine. It also said that it was carrying 65 Ukrainian prisoners of war captured among the ranks of the Ukrainian armed forces, which were supposed to take part in a prisoners exchange On the plane, there were also 6 crew members, and 3 other people. Now, according to the governor of the Belgorod region, no one survived the crash. Also, the ministry said that a special team was sent to the crash site to investigate the cause of the crash. But in the meantime, the chief of the defense committee in the Russian parliament accused Ukraine of shooting down the plane because he said that it was shot down by 3 air defense missiles of the type that are supplied to Ukraine by Western allies. Well, he has provided no proof of that, and NBC News has got no way to independently verify it right now. But this is a claim that, at least the Ukraine's responsibility, is a claim that seems to be backed by the Russian Foreign Ministry for now. At least according to Reuters, the Russian Foreign Ministry said in the last hour that it was Ukraine's fault, and he called it an act of barbaric terrorism. Back to you, Savannah.
So, Claudio, if I may, before I let you go, just ask, how are Ukrainians responding at this point? You know that it seems to be their prisoners of war and potentially shot down by their missiles. How are they responding?
Well, Ukraine has not yet confirmed that it was Ukraine that shot down that plane, perhaps also because in the past, when Ukraine carried out attacks into Russian territories or into territories that are claimed by Russia, they were always followed by massive attacks in retaliation by Russian forces. Savannah.
All right, Claudio, thank you very much on this breaking news for us. Well, a torrential rainstorm in San Diego County earlier this week dropped more than 3 inches of rain over a 3-hour period. That storm led to massive flash flooding of up to several feet in some parts of the county. But now, as floodwaters wash away, people are returning to their homes to see what the damage is that was left behind. Here's NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson with a closer look at that aftermath.
The one thing you hear from residents is that this doesn't happen in San Diego. This level of devastation, this amount of storm damage now, dozens of residents cleaning out their home, often devastated by this amount of rainfall after about 1 month of rainfall landed on this city in just 6 hours.
San Diego shell-shocked by sudden, unrelenting rainfall, sparking widespread devastation, loss, and hundreds of high-water rescues.
My husband and I, we helped rescue about 10 people.
The sudden deluge, historic. The city struck with more than a month's worth of rain in just 6 hours.
We're used to rain, but not this much rain.
Residents in flooded neighborhoods digging out.
And it is easy to see the strength of this storm, how powerful it was. Just by walking around this neighborhood, you can see behind me, neighbors say it came through like a river, able to pick up these trucks just like they were matchsticks.
My dog was in here. We had to break the window to rescue my dog. That was, look how high the water is, almost 4 to 5 feet.
What is it like to stand in here now to see it like this? Oh, it's surreal, man. My daughter's played right here. They're not going to have our memories here no more.
The Hernandez family waded through eye-level floodwater to escape, some of them seeking safety on the roof, their home gutted.
Heartbroken, tears. Just couldn't believe what was just had happened.
Even the city's infrastructure upended, ravaged roads and shuttered interstates, trolleys at a standstill. Relief is in the forecast as the storm pushes east, leaving residents with ruin in its historic wake.
And you can see how high the water was here by the watermark left on this home and really dozens of homes in neighborhoods like this all throughout the city. The rainfall, the storm, thankfully now moving out of this area, heading east, but the aftermath, devastating. Back to you.
All right, Steve Patterson, thank you very much. Well, there is more rain on the way for some parts of the country. Let's get a check on your morning news now weather with meteorologist Michelle Grossman. She's tracking these coast-to-coast storms for us. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. Yeah, you need the umbrella in many spots as we head out this morning because we are looking at that southern deluge continuing. We had a break yesterday from the rain along the west coast, but we have another storm system that moved onshore. So we're looking at rain along the west coast from Washington to Oregon, Northern California. It looks like Southern California is going to be okay today. And also looking at higher elevation snow. We're looking at rocky snow as well. And then look at all the rain from the south central states through the lower Mississippi Valley, the Tennessee Valley, Ohio valleys into portions of New England. On the northern part of this system, we're looking at some cold air working in. So we have some freezing rain falling in New England, interior parts of the Northeast, and then some snow falling in portions of New England as well. Temperatures are rising, though, with that southerly flow bringing in this moisture. We're going to see those temperatures bump up. I'll show you that in just a minute. But that rain is stretching from the Gulf to the Northeast with significant flooding expected in the lower Mississippi Valley. We're going to see anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of rain. Could see 10 in some isolated spots over the next couple of days. Alerts are in place. Of course, we're looking at winter weather alerts. That is in the white, especially in portions of New England, because we are expecting that snow and also freezing rain. And then 34 million Americans under flood alerts. We have a flood watch that is in the green for portions of the Great Lakes down to portions of the Appalachians. And we're also looking at the South Central states, the Tennessee Valley, the Mississippi Valley. And we have flash flood warnings. That means flooding is happening now or it's imminent. That's where you see those maroon boxes on the map here. And we're going to see that as we head throughout this Wednesday. This is what it looks like on radar. We have some stormy weather. We're going to see that as we go throughout the afternoon as well. Could see some really heavy rainfall, tornado or two, really gusty winds. But the big story here is a heavy, heavy rain. Where you see those brighter colors, that's where we're seeing the heaviest rain falling. So it's sort of falling in the same spots it fell yesterday, the day before, and we're going to see that continuing over the next day or two. Because of that, we do have a flash flood risk. We're going to see hourly rates of rainfall 2 to 3 inches per hour, especially where you see that pink. So Alexandria, New Orleans, Lake Charles, Jackson could see some very heavy rainfall. I mentioned the severe threat that includes New Orleans, especially where you see the yellow. We're expecting winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour with any storms, or tornado or two as possible, and even some hail. Tomorrow, same story. We're going to see it slide a little bit to the east. Now, the west, I do want to get to this because we are soggy once again. We have that storm system moving onshore, scattered rain from Washington to California. We'll see that move into the Rockies tomorrow. So a little break again tomorrow. You could see some scattered showers along the Pacific Northwest. But then as we head towards Friday, another storm system. And these are just making its way across country. It's like a parade of storms. So by Friday, we're looking at the next storm approaching the coast. More rain, more wind, and snow into the weekend. Let's talk about those temperatures, because we are warming up today. With that rain this time of year, that heavy rain, we're looking at some really warm temperatures. Raleigh today, 68 degrees. That's 19 degrees above normal. Savannah?
All right, Michelle Grossman, thank you so much. See you in a little bit.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.